All right. All right. We are live. We are live. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bryson White with Faith in the Valley, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation today with my pastor, Pastor DJ Criner of the Saints Rest Baptist Church. So, welcome to the Faith in the Valley Justice interview series. So, a little bit about Faith in the Valley and the Justice interview series. I'm going to say a couple of things up front, and then we're going to get directly into the questions with Pastor Criner this morning. So Faith in the Valley and our community partners believe that a different world, a better future is possible for the Central Valley if we work together. A future in which everyone is included, treated as sacred, has a chance to thrive and live a healthy, decent life. A future in which no one is seen as less than or lives in fear because of the color of their skin, their legal status, or the amount of money they earn. A future where everyone has access to good jobs, clean air, clean water, alternatives to incarceration, quality healthcare, and safe neighborhoods. And the Faith in the Valley Justice interview series are a set of conversations that highlight the role of faith and justice organizing in the Central Valley. We have discussed the role of interpretations of scripture and its role in doing justice, the intersection between religion and mass incarceration, Christian perspectives on abolitionism, and conceptions of nonviolence, understanding creation care and responsibility to proper land use, amongst other topics. Today, we'll be having a discussion about COVID-19 and the responsibility of the church. And we welcome Pastor DJ Criner once again of the Saints Rest Baptist Church, the best church this side of the Mississippi. And I'm biased. That's my home church.
I know, right? You were like, so you biased individual.
yeah. It's a completely non-objective.
Right. Especially when they find out what street it's on. You know what I'm saying?
Let me give a brief introduction to Pastor DJ. Pastor DJ Criner is a leader in the community. He has served as chairman of Faith in Fresno board, which advocates for social justice in Fresno, as a federation under PICO, now under Faith in the Valley and Faith in Action. He also serves as campus pastor for Fresno Pacific University North Campus, working under University Campus Pastor Angelus Wilson. He has worked with Fresno Unified Superintendent Mike Hansen in achieving academic success among students in West Fresno. He served as a member of mayor of Mayor Ashley Swearingen's task force. He also worked with former Fresno Police Chief and now Mayor Jerry Dyer on race relations regarding police and civilian interactions. He has also taught seminars with the Police Department on cultural bias for new and current officers. He has led marches, which I've been with him on numerous issues, including but not limited to gun violence, blighted and boarded homes, slumlords, police and community relations, and air quality in West Fresno. In August 2014, he traveled to Ferguson, Missouri to stand with clergy and leaders in the community in light of the Mike Brown shooting, where he spoke with youth and community members regarding a just response to epidemic racism. He has since traveled to Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia during the visit of the Pope to address the Black Church's response in time of social justice. He has sat on panels, held meetings, and has become one of Fresno's leading agents for social change through the Word of God. He highlights Psalm 11:3 as his driving point. The foundations of law and order have collapsed. What can the righteous do? And I can attest to my brother's commitment to people, having served under him during my time at the Saints Rest Baptist Church. Good brother, and everybody in Fresno knows what he's about. So, Pastor DJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, man, thanks for having me, brother, man. We miss you here, bro.
Yeah, I miss y'all too, man. Yeah. I know folks don't want to hear this part, but man, because of the pandemic, we haven't been in church. We took Kairos to church the other day, and so yeah, he loves church. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but he was walking up and down the aisles,
waving his hands like.
He has a natural praise dance. He didn't get it from me.
He gets that from Jen, dude. That's not from you, bro. You don't have the rhythm. Nah, Jen does.
Exactly. So let's hop in. Hopefully everyone is paying attention. This should be a really good combo. So, Pastor Criner, how have you navigated the COVID-19 pandemic as a pastor? specifically, how have you walked your congregation during this time? For example, how did visiting the old and sick and shut in shift and change?
Yeah, bro, that's a great question. So, I mean, let's just start off. I mean, that we started kind of hearing like rumors about this pandemic, or as our former Orange brother called it, their virus, whatever. But we started hearing traits and rumors of it. Like I would say, end of December of 2019, January, right? We started kind of hearing, that there was this virus that's coming out of a certain country, and many were talking about like maybe it's it was a bioweapon. Others were saying it's just a flu. Others were saying that a bat droppings hit this and hit that. So it really didn't really hit us too hard. I would say we probably start getting more nervous around February timeframe, right? And all we did was pray in our church because historically, that's how we deal with things. We don't really address mental illness. We don't really address mental wellness. We don't really deal with post-traumatic stress and how things of the world affects us unless it comes to issues that are rooted in our history, our deep-rooted history. And some of our Black churches don't even do that. But March is when it hit. That second Sunday of March, I'll never forget when everything kind of just shut down. And in Fresno, it was really March 15th when the city declared that the city would shut everything down. I mean, immediately. One of our members, Miguel Arias, who is our council member, placed a call that Friday, asked me to get over to City Hall, and they were declaring an immediate shutdown of the city, which meant that the church would close, which meant the doors of the church would close, and what we would do in regards to that. And there were a lot of people that were apprehensive and even very negative regarding the closure of it, that, essential business, the church is a part of the essential business, or is essential to the life of individuals, which I do agree with. But I don't agree with, at that time, I didn't agree with the negative pushback that many people were giving us as clergy regarding this. I mean, this was a very important and a very life-altering experience. I mean, the last time something like this, of this mass hit, was probably, I would say, probably the Spanish flu. I wouldn't even say, bro, that the swine flu was even close to this. I mean, something that as a worldwide, it halted the world. Hence the word pandemic, panicking, right? The whole world is panics. What do we do, And as a church, St. Res, which we kind of on the cusp of one of the lead churches when it comes to social justice, when it comes to things of the world, that because that's part of what you brought to me when I first started as pastor. The idea of saying, look, we got to start looking at the issues that are affecting our society and our people, because people are tired of just hearing Jesus in the pulpit, but we're not showing them Jesus outside, right? And so, of course, that question was, well, what are you going to do? What are we going to do at St. Res? And really it was, okay, nothing stops. Just the way that we do things kind of has to change. And really for me, brother, it was like, wow, this is something we've always wanted really to do, which is find a way to get outside the walls of the church and still do effective ministry without the same religious rigmarole of the tradition of waiting for people to come to us. So yeah, man, it was scary. It was like, okay, how as a pastor do we address the sickness, the illness, the pain of people without physically touching them? Because as our culture, we are very touch. We are very touch a person's hand, right? Be in front of a person's face. You can be at African-American church for 5 hours straight, I mean, church service alone is darn near 2.5. And then people want to hang out and talk for 3 hours after. And then based on our tradition, why we either go to people's houses afterwards to eat, or we go out to eat with each other, I mean, it wouldn't be nothing to swing over at someone's house just to see them. And I thought originally, Bryson, that this was going to affect the congregation. I had no idea how much of a mental strain, how much psychologically it would affect me as a pastor, man. It was painful, brother, not to be able to touch people, to come into, because we immediately obeyed our county and our state guidelines. We immediately said, okay, well, next Sunday we are going to close. That previous Sunday, we wasn't in church anyway. We were doing work outside of the church. We were kind of serving the community and kind of doing stuff on a Sunday morning. Interesting enough. The next Sunday, we immediately said, well, we're going to shut down the doors of the church because we don't know what this thing is. And as a people, You can't tell an African American congregation predominantly, you can't tell them, listen, don't hug anybody, don't touch anybody. That's impossible for our church. It's impossible. We have mothers of the church. We have folks that don't see doctors because they can't get to them based on where they stay at, right? And for them, the church is their doctor. The church is their hospital. So they're going to come to the house of God in order to get the healing that in their minds they think they need or they want. And we dare not say Jesus can't heal, but we also are very cautious that he also gives us common sense, right? To take the necessary steps to ensure that people are safe. So, brother, it was hard. So what we did is we closed the doors for people to come in. They can still come into the parking lot and sit in their cars. We immediately started trying to do Facebook Live, YouTube, which Jeremy Miller, Cameron Grant, Javante immediately jumped on because they're young. They knew, hey, this is what we need to do. Let's move. And our parking lot was filled that next Sunday, but they couldn't come in. I would say the hardest, Bryson, was Easter Sunday morning when traditionally the church is packed. And we asked people to send pictures of themselves and their families, and we were placing them on the pews where they traditionally would sit at. And it was tough. I cried the whole Sunday, bro, because we wasn't able to see people. And I didn't realize how this sheltering in place had affected us, had affected me and my family, other people's families, because for approximately about 3 months, we didn't see one another at all until we moved to the outside service where we were able to socially distance, but at least we can see each other. So it just caused us to try to do something innovative, like something different that was always available to us, you know what I mean? But because of traditionally always coming together on a Sunday morning inside the building, we hadn't really stretched the ability to connect to each other when all in our minds the pandemic did was, yes, teach us that, yes, Jesus is real. We believe in the gospel. We believe in spiritual healing. But this physical virus that has affected so many people, on this one, we do need to take a physical approach to it, right? Physically making sure people are safe, while at the same time adhering to what Jesus is telling us to do, which is provide that spiritual word, but now we can provide it in a different manner while still keeping people safe.
That's right. Yeah, the pandemic doesn't stop the ministry and the proclamation of the gospel, but it's about doing so in such a way that keeps folks safe.
Right. Absolutely. And shame. And there was a lot of people, shame on them, in my opinion. I don't care, for saying that the doors have to be open for them to come. Dude, and if we're for the Christian side of it, for the Jesus followers, right? And for my Muslim brothers, my Catholic brothers, even my Buddhist brothers, many know the story of Jesus. They may not see him as the Messiah, but many see him as a prophet or a great man, right? You can look, the percentage of amount of time he actually was in the temple he was outside doing ministry far more than he was doing it inside, right? I mean, if that was the case, he would have died on the cross inside of the temple. No matter how many crosses are inside, the cross was never in the temple. It was on the outside. The greatest miracle he did was on the cross outside while his disciples were socially distanced inside. You know what I mean? And they still got saved. So who are we to tell people the only way you can receive help but is by coming inside of the walls of the church? I thought our job was to go ye out therefore into all nations. So it's just us finding a way to get that message out, brother.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me the second question, I feel like you already addressed. The second question is what measures that you put in place to provide safety for your congregation while at the same time providing space for their spiritual needs. Did you want to expand on that a little bit? I know you guys were y'all were meeting outside, and then you are now back inside. But are you social distance? How was that process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were on calls with our governor, our governor's office, and great deal that happened a couple of days ago. But our governor's office every single week, just to kind of get like their recommendation, because it moved from a requirement to mandate to recommendations as we kind of started entering into the realm of vaccinations. But last summer it was all outside. Like we refused to have inside, with the exception of a preacher who was up speaking for those who couldn't come inside, like some of our elders or those who were sick or those who had to quarantine needed service. So we provided 2 different services outside and inside, but inside was only camera and the preacher. And somebody would sing. So it would have like maybe Deacon Hall or May would sing a song right before the sermon. And they would never interact with each other. Like the preacher would kind of be in my office until it was time for him to come out, just to ensure their safety. Like that, we wanted our folks to know that we did not, I'm gonna say, how do I say this? That we did not put the service in the church above their health and their life. Because what good is it to put them up and then the next day we're putting them in a casket, you know?
Right.
And there was a lot of people that was like, well, what about faith? Dude, faith without works is dead. You know, I mean, let's not equate our faith to a virus that really has nothing to do with God in itself. Like, let's not do those things. We wanted to make sure that people saw us demonstrate what the recommendations of our county health department and our national health department, what Dr. Fauci was saying. We want to make sure that we saw them, that they saw us at least make those efforts to ensure those practices, so that they saw that we cared about their life, not about what they put in an offering basket every single Sunday. So what we did is we would go around handing the communion trays out. However, we would have the package communion, which was a big shift for a lot of traditional African-American Baptist churches, you know, mask on at all times, even if you're coming to a microphone. And then when we got the recommendation to remove it, we would do so, but only on a mic. If you're on camera, you have to have a mask. You have to be 6 feet apart. And even when we moved back in the building, we did so gradually, just with an essential team, with monitors, with a system that cleaned the building periodically every 20 minutes. And then we would have men come through the building and clean it right after service was over with, and having people kind of go out. And that kind of is the same thing that's happening now. We are at a socially distanced. We come on the stage one way, exit a different way, just to kind of show, you know, that we are respecting the safety and the respecting people's wishes. We try not to do handshakes. We try not to do hugs. Of course, you know, you can't really get past it all. But when it comes to like praying for folks, we try not to hold hands while praying for them. We'll try to maybe put a hand on the shoulder if needed. But even when we're working at the altar, we try to do so with gloves. Just to respect people, you know, want people to know that we respect them and we respect their boundaries. Well, at the same time, we know that Jesus can go past those boundaries. And even when it comes to seeing and visiting people, we would go to the door. I mean, mom would probably attest to that as well. We went to her door and then stepped back from the door, you know, and we just wanted her to see our face, and then we took off, you know.
I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were still in Fresno, you came through and you had the full regalia.
Yeah, it was hard, dude. But it wasn't for me. It was like, because I know mom, like, and I know, but I also know JP, you know, I know Simone, I know Paul, like, I know mom may be fine, because there's a lot of elder individuals that was like, no, please come, pastor, you know, pray for me, give me, but their kids are like, you would really be disrespectful to my mother who has pre-existing conditions, and I know you've been everywhere, Pastor Criner, you know what I mean? And even if I am in the house, how insensitive is that, bro? Yeah. So part of the brigade was like, I just want you all to know, you and Jen, you know, who has a baby as well, mom who has pre-existing conditions, that I respect you, you know? Now, if you tell me to take off the mask and the shield and all that, I'll do so, but I'm willing to make myself uncomfortable so that she feels comfortable, you know, so that you and your family feel like I respect this woman and I respect her life, bro. I respect her life, man, enough to say, I'll stand at a distance and I can still pray for you. I don't have to come inside the house, brother. I can still pray for you and honor you for that and know that Jesus can go past that. But I think we just get selfish, man, and we want to, I don't know, criminalize individuals for being nervous, you know, about something that has never happened before and maybe never happen again with this pandemic, man.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, that's right. Yeah, I was super nervous. I'm still nervous, as you noted. We got a little one. You know, we got vaccinated. You know, he got a little bit of the vaccine through breastfeeding with Jen. But I was super nervous. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know, my job is to protect this young person. I have a kidney transplant, so I have to make sure that I'm safe and careful. So I'm gonna ask this next question to you because
Okay.
this is right in line with what kind of you already queued up.
Okay.
We'd love to hear your response.
Okay.
So, as you have seen and already noted, there's a segment of Christians in our society that have opted to go against mask mandates,
Yeah.
refuse to get the vaccine, and or sort of overly spiritualize the pandemic and
Right.
politicize the crisis.
Yeah.
What do you think of these sorts of what do you think these sorts of responses are rooted in?
Yeah. Selfishness, political agendas, and to attempt to put my Christianity on the same basis as their quote unquote political party, and almost to make one side of a party more right than the other. And I say that intentionally, that word right, more than the other. You know what I'm saying? It's sad when we use our Christianity as a means of saying we're right, and because we're right, everyone else needs to be left behind. Again, I say that intentionally. You know what I'm saying? Because it's really a segment of individuals that attempt to do that. And I'm not dare saying that I'm far one or the other. I'm a Christian. I believe in a lamb over a donkey or elephant any day, brother. But for a lot of folks who dare to say to us that Jesus wasn't social justice and we should keep any form of social justice preaching out of our pulpit, then I tell you, why do you keep putting your political views in the pulpit? I mean, there's certain individuals that say Martin Luther King wasn't even a Christian because of his stance. And we know who that brother is. But at the same time, you went to court and fought, almost as if to say this is what Jesus would have done. And that's not true. That's not biblical. That's a bad narrative. That's almost pulling a political agenda over our Christian faith. The entire time that we're fighting politics, when it comes to this, we could be saving souls or we could be feeding the hungry. We had people that lost their jobs, bro. I mean, all that money that we're spending in court, why not pay people's rent? Why not take care of folks' mortgage? Why not take care of a family of five that's a single mom who lost her job and currently is not receiving the aid that she needs, because of how much she was making, not how much she is making right now because she's not making anything. It just kind of, I don't know, brother, it kind of made it where this is an opportunity now for me to hop on a political platform. And if it's not a political platform, a platform in general, where now I have to let the world know that I'm fighting against the governor, or I'm fighting against the national, or I'm fighting against the county medical advice, or I'm fighting against the county health department, or all these recommendations that are given. Again, when it came to even recommendations, we were fighting. It's a recommendation. A recommendation means I'm recommending. If you go to a restaurant and they recommend something when they first give it to you, you don't stand up immediately and say, I'm against what they're recommending me to eat at this restaurant. No, fool, you just ordered something else that you want on the menu. But we've made it to the point where now those who said social justice shouldn't be practiced are now practicing their own form of social justice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Like, you're upset with us around protesting around, officers gunning down unarmed Black folks for the past decade, and now they're protesting about masks, not wearing masks, and it's like, the two ethics are completely different. Like, one is rooted in an ethic of care and concern for human beings, and another one is rooted in an ethic of selfishness and lack of neighborliness. And that's the part that I never understood. It's like, particularly for those who are claiming a Christianity, to not understand mass mandates as an extension of neighborly love and neighborly.
Absolutely.
Pastor Curtis said in the comments, I don't know if you can see him, he says, I am my brother's keeper. That includes my brother's mother, my brother's wife, and everyone that is essential in his life. You know what I mean? That's an excellent point. It's like, and so, there's, the level of selfishness that primarily, in terms of how we've seen publicly, has been primarily white Christians. I know they're not the only ones who have been sort of anti-mask, but in terms of the public face of that, has been primarily white folks.
Absolutely.
And, it's just a bad look, and it seems like it's just an extension of all of the things that we are organizing and critiquing. Like, you all need to step up your level of care for your neighbor.
Absolutely. And if you don't want to step up your level of care for your neighbor, then shut up and do what you want. But when we do our public demonstrations regarding the value of life, I mean, when we march regarding a man who stayed on the ground and life was taken from him because he couldn't breathe, and you're equating that to a mask, saying you can't breathe in a mask, that's mad disrespectful. It's almost like what you're saying is your life and having all these folks out here catching virus, catching this disease after disease, you're fighting against life, or we're fighting for life. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those two are confusing to me, because just last year it was, what's the point of protesting in front of the Capitol or in front of your city halls, and then you're using the city halls fountains to do baptisms. Baptisms. The baptisms. I mean, you're making a public demonstration, and it's nothing different from what our previous Roman Catholic individuals did when they were paying for baptisms. It's like I'm trying to make a political statement in the name of Jesus, and shame on you for using my Christ as a means of publicizing your political agenda. And even Jesus fought against the political. He said, keep the two separate. I mean, this has nothing to do with your views on whether or not you can wear a freaking mask, or whether you can go into a sanctuary. If you want to go into your sanctuary and put people at, go for it. That's on you. But don't try to hijack my Bible as a means of using yours as an agenda item, and using it as a means of saying Jesus would not be pleased by it. Now, I'm going to tell you what Jesus wouldn't be pleased by. He wouldn't be pleased by taking the same cross that he died on and setting it on fire in front of a black individual's house, and then preaching it and putting a cloth on after that and calling it KKK. But that's a problem. What I'm saying, brother, is the same individuals that are fighting against mask wearing are the same folks that's ancestors wore a mask, but it just covered their whole face. So we have to figure out, bro, are we using our Bible as a means of a platform to push a political agenda, instead of using it as a way of saving souls? And you can do that without always physically coming together, because in the New Testament gospel, they wasn't coming together as well as we are. They were socially distanced. They were having secret meetings up in upper rooms, right? And the word of God was still spread, bro.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, I'm going to read a comment. Pastor Simon says that he remembers a white pastor comparing himself to Rosa Parks when he fought to have in-person worship. And so, yeah, that's really interesting. There's just
Rosa Parks.
The conflation of the oppression of Black folks in this country with acting as if that's similar to being told or instructed or recommended to take a vaccine or to wear a mask to protect other people. Right. It just sort of shows the height of sort of a shallowness that is existing within mainstream Christianity in our country. Absolutely. and the delusion that has set in for folks around thinking that the two are similar experiences. Right. It's a sad day, and but it's an extension of a long historical process too, that we really shouldn't be that surprised by, but nonetheless we are. And just on a side note, if someone is hesitant about receiving the vaccine, even though I recommend everyone to get vaccinated, I can respect someone's hesitancy about receiving the vaccine as long as they're still taking the other precautions to protect other people and themselves.
Absolutely.
Quarantine yourself, social distance yourself, wear your mask in public, you know what I mean, if you have some concerns about it. But people aren't doing that. They're like, I'm not going to take the vaccine, and I'm going to come and get in your face without a mask. And it's like, hey, like, back up. Me and Pastor Curtis were in Bakersfield for some relationship building with clergy, and we're in a place, and some folks just kind of like walked up to us like without their mask on, like, and talking all in our face. And we're like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, people gotta be careful because we're gonna start becoming the real us is gonna start coming out in a minute. I'm serious. Because even if you are vaccinated, that still doesn't mean that you walk up in my face. And I think as our country is a little bit behind on this, like other countries have been wearing masks for decades, bro. I mean, be honest, we're a little behind on the whole mask wearing things. I mean, before now, you would get in folks' face, folks would spit and all this other stuff, right? And it would hit. But I think this kind of gave us an understanding that there has to be boundaries that still exist, even if you are vaccinated, brother. I mean,
Yeah.
because my vaccination helps. My vaccination is my seatbelt. It's not yours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I still can get in a car accident with a seatbelt on. It just helps. It helps me save my life. But that doesn't mean that the person in the back seat behind me doesn't have their seatbelt on. Yeah. So I have 3 daughters who are all under the age of 12 years old. They're not vaccinated. They can't get vaccinated. You know, my baby wasn't blessed like yours to be able to receive hints of vaccination because they were already born. Yeah. I still have to go home every single night. And I pray every single night that my kids are safe, even when they come back and forth to school. You know, even when we're going shopping to a place, keep your mask on, keep your mask on. That's not a knock against my faith. I think that's a ploy for my faith that actually lifts my faith up, because I believe that God put certain people on this planet that knows a little bit about more than health than I do, and they give me the recommendations to do it, and I'm gonna follow those recommendations for the sake of the mental well-being and the physical well-being of my family.
Exactly. And that sort of wisdom is so critically important, because there's so much misinformation abounding, masquerading as wisdom.
Yes, sir.
And you know, a buddy of mine put it real succinctly when the pandemic first jumped off. He said, "I'm not taking advice. I'm not taking advice about a global pandemic from someone who failed 10th grade biology class." You know what I'm saying? And it's like all of a sudden we have these armchair biologists and immunologists and all these kind of stuff. Like, man, like, you know, like I get natural suspicions of the healthcare system, particularly from Black folks, but come on, bro, like that's not you don't know how this works. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna listen to the scientist who knows, who has wise counsel, you know what I mean, versus just sort of taking just your random advice, you know, tell me to drink. All I gotta do is drink a tea, and that's gonna, you know, keep you protected from getting the virus. Like, nah, we're not.
Can I add to that real quick, B? Like, because you're right, because that does kill me. And I think common sense also helps us. You know, when we have a headache, we'll go into the kitchen and grab aspirin or Tylenol, right? And we're trusting that whoever put it inside of the container put the right pills in the bottle, right? Or when we go to a counter at Kaiser or wherever we get and we get tablets, we're trusting that, you know, they didn't mix up the tablets and we put them in right, but we won't trust when a person who has been vetted, and you have to be vetted to the deepest level of being of vettation in order for you to stand up on camera on CNN or MSNBC or even in our counties, right, and make recommendations, right, or say, look, this thing is not a joke, right? But we'll hop on YouTube and listen to a kid who's 19 years old, right, who is telling us that this is not accurate. This is what you need to do. If you hold your breath a certain amount of times and you can't do it, then that means you're COVID positive. And all this other, you know, foolishness that we'll believe over people who are qualified. And all I'm saying is, if someone told you aspirin will help your heart rate slow down, right? And that's just and we're like, okay, if my heart is racing, I'm gonna take an aspirin. You've been told that by a doctor on a local level. This is a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah.
And you have folks on a national level who are vetted, who have a little bit more knowledge than a person like you said that didn't pass biology. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even take biology, dude. Like I'm graduated, so you know I'm good now. You know, like, I didn't even take it, bro. Like, man, I would not be giving advice or taking advice from anybody that is my age that does not have 5 degrees. That's you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like I understand the fear, and that's understandable. You know, that's understandable. But I'm more fearful if a person I love have to go into a hospital and be on a ventilator.
No, that's right. Reza says here people are taking medical advice from Nicki Minaj in our community. And he's right. I mean, you've seen the whole recent thing with Nicki claiming that her about her the physical parts of her cousin in Trinidad.
Right.
And there's just such our society has been flooded with such misinformation, and the people that we revere for
advice,
being good at something, whether it's a good basketball player, a good artist, like that doesn't mean that you're an expert on everything because you can shoot the three well or because you can spit on the mic really well. Like you're not an expert in these other areas because you're good at one thing. And so, there's been a breakdown around wise counsel and wisdom in this this moment, and some of it is because there's a deep operation of flooding all of us with misinformation. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I think it was Chappelle. I like Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is like my favorite comedian now. Richard Pryor is my absolute favorite. Chappelle, I want to say it was Sticks and Stones. He was talking about the pandemic, and he said, I think it was CNN or MSNBC said once the pandemic hit, something about we're going to go live with Ja Rule to get his opinion about and Chappelle said, I don't want to hear Ja Rule's advice on how to deal with it's Ja Rule. Like 50 destroyed him. You know what I mean? You want me to take advice and hear I don't care what Ja Rule has to say. I think that's kind of like what you're saying. Like, and I think the sad part about it is coming back to clergy. We have Reza on, Simon on. I don't know if Rick's on as well. Curtis is on. We're all clergy, right? Shame on us who have no experience in these areas, who are telling people, brother, it's no different. It's no different from Nicki Minaj saying it. No different from if Ja Rule hops on at 50. I don't care if Pac was still alive and he talks about it. You're not an expert. Now, if you want to talk to me about rap, go for it. They come to us about scripture. They come to us what God is saying. It is not our job to hop into a medical person's profession that we have not nary studied. My doctor doesn't even know everything about COVID, He's telling me what the national level is telling him when they have their meetings. So it's just a shame that we hop into so many people's lanes, and just because our health is good enough to fight against it, we'll put other people at risk. And I'm telling you, we are putting and hospitalizing so many members of our congregation because we're telling them that their faith is lacking if they take the vaccination or if they even get tested. And it's a shame that we're in everybody else's lane but get mad when they get in our lanes.
That's right. Yeah. It probably won't be until Judgment Day where people it will be revealed how many people actually killed other folks during the pandemic.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Absolutely. The David Koshs are still here. The Jim Jones are still here. It's just we're giving the advice for them to do it just like they did. We're just not giving them the poison physically, right? Right. But we're telling them to come to us, right? And then we have COVID and we're speaking over them and we're hurting our own people, bro.
Yeah. Pastor, we have 2 more questions and we have about 20 more minutes together. So I want to get some of your responses to these. This next question, the pandemic has exposed so much about how our society does not meet the most basic needs of vulnerable people. Yeah. We often hear about a return to normal, but normal is not working for a lot of people. So for you, what does a new normal look like that reflects genuine care for one another?
Oh, man. I read this book by Crable, man, years back called The Upside Down Kingdom. And it talks about how now the normal, our old normal is what everybody really wants to return back to. It kind of reminds me of where the poor take care of the rich, where those that don't have are really taking care of those that do have. And the pandemic kind of put us into a place where many of us, well, I would say maybe about 80% of our country didn't have. I mean, to be honest, we all were sheltered in. Some, of course, did their own things where they went to wine galleries and all that privately. But at one point, everyone was at a state of, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, you know? And I think in a way, not to take away from the value of life and what last year did to a lot of people, but I think in a way it exposed the need for us to see people instead of seeing people as money, as color, as religion. Because at one point last year, it really didn't matter what temple or church you went to because nobody could go. It really didn't matter where you worked because nobody could go to work. Everyone was trying to find this new invention that was already existing called Zoom, right? Or Teams. You know, it reminded us of the value of family. I mean, me and Reza were talking at one point about the importance of how we thought that we had to be at every single meeting. All right. And we had to physically go to that meeting. And now we kind of see the beauty of being at home, having a meeting, and your kids are running around next to you, and you're able to mute or put your video off, or really just to say no. I think the new normal really revolves around what really matters the most, brother. And I think that's what it taught us. It taught us that it's really not about where you work. It's really not about how much you make. It's not about where you live, but it's really about who you live with, who you're working for. And I'm not talking about the company or the organization, but your family, like your son and your wife. Like that's what mattered the most. I'm pretty sure, B, you had opportunities galore to go and speak at places, to do things, but your value system, even though it had always been, you've always been a family dude. Like that's the White legacy, right? Pop White taught that to you guys like you would never believe. And y'all taught that to me, the importance. You would fuss at me about being at home. You know, me about being at a hospital. Like, dude, what you gonna do? At the hospital, they on ICU. They can't even see you, bro. Like, they don't know you there. Stay home. And he would say choice words that were cussing, but that's what JP would do. Right? But the pandemic really taught me, like, you know what? I can't get there. Like, I mean, think about it, B. I can't go.
Yeah, so literally, they won't let you in.
They won't let me in. Yeah, and I'm embarrassed about myself. I'm Pastor Criner. They're like, wonderful. Take your black self home. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know where you've been at, dude. Like, it really taught, like, the value system shifted. That upside kingdom shifted where now it's not about my kids taking care of me. It's about me taking care of my children, me being at home, right? It taught me that I don't have to go to a movie theater. I could be at home. It also taught within the church, this is about to shock you, B, that service doesn't have to be 2 hours, 3 hours long. You know, that 3 o'clock service, that shut up, you get on my nerves. That 3 o'clock services, no disrespect to our people that came before us, you know, like my grandma or your grandpa, but we would have like Usher Daniel days, women's days. Dude, we have like days for everything, like Afro Day. It'd be a church service, you know what I mean? And then a 6 o'clock one. And you're sitting there like, why are we doing this? I should be at home with my family watching the Niners like spank the Cowboys. And I'm in church. Like it just showed what really, really mattered. And that's what the new normal is, I think, going to do for us. You're going to see the true people that love their wives between the people that married their wife for the sake of them having clout and them having fame and them having a position. You know, you're going to see real fathers come out, and those that really don't care about their families kind of go back into this shell of trying to be back in the office all the time, because God just kind of gave us the means of staying home and still doing the business that we need to do. That's the beauty of it now.
Yeah, that's right. It slowed all of us down and made us reflect on what really matters. You know, one of the things too, the pandemic revealed for me in terms of like the new normal that I would like to see. So, you know, we live in Los Angeles now, and, you know, LA is a city that really thrives on energy, right? In terms of like being out and about, it's a particular kind of culture and energy. So when the pandemic, we moved down in the middle of the pandemic, so the city was much slower, you know, there was no traffic, which was a trip.
Right.
What it showed was the problematic infrastructure of the city. When you're not in the energy and the vibe of the city, it showed how much of the city's really been left behind.
Absolutely. That's good, brother. I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like that for me was symbolic of the pandemic as a whole, in the sense of what it's really sort of revealed about the country, like where we really are. The fact that, you know, we don't have universal health care and what that means. You know, the problem of, you know, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all these folks making billions of dollars in the middle of a global pandemic, and people are losing their jobs, and the money that they gave us in these stimulus packages weren't enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah,
it just revealed all the fissures and fractures within society, and all the things that we know we need to fundamentally shift and transform. And so for the new normal for me is, one, I agree with you 100%. Like, you know, being more rooted in family and in relationships should be the new normal versus what we produce. And then the new normal, as an extension of that, is how that familial ethic of care is then expressed at a systemic and structural level, to where everyone is cared for. You know what I
I
mean?
agree.
To where
I
people
agree.
are booted out on the street because they can't pay their rent. You know what I'm saying? As these moratoriums are coming to a close. You know what I mean? And all these sorts of things that we witnessed during the pandemic. And so hopefully for me, the new normal is a genuine ethic of care that is expressed at all levels of society. But it doesn't seem like we're anywhere near that, because people have used the pandemic to politicize and to double down on lack of neighborliness.
Yeah, I absolutely. I don't know. I think if anything, bro, a new normal will cause more people to have their eyes open. Like in Fresno, we've discovered how many vaccination sites were available in other parts of town compared to the low income parts of town, like the Southwest, and how there was a fight in order to have that. And then who came to those vaccination sites? Those from other parts of town that didn't want to wait in line up north came to Southwest, to have their and what we had to do in Southwest in order to ensure that those limited amount of vaccinations when it first came out were available to Southwest residents.
Oh wow, yeah,
It exposed a lot of stuff. To be honest
yeah,
with you, it really exposed some stuff. And so even if nothing quote unquote ever changes, I think maybe the pandemic caused our eyes to be open, like on that Get Out, the movie Get Out, that poster where his eyes were opened up. He
right,
woke.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it really caused a lot of people to open up their eyes and see something that they probably never saw. I don't know if there would have been as much energy surrounded by our brother's death and the protests that occurred last year if everything was moving.
yeah, yeah,
I don't,
yeah.
I don't, I don't know if that many white folks who probably never saw would have finally saw because they were so busy moving and shaking. Now, unfortunately, some people went back to sleep again, but and probably never want to wake up again. But it exposed some stuff that I think would have never been exposed if we didn't have this.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, that's right. Yeah, there's a lot more to talk about. Now, let me hit this last question
Okay.
for you, and then
Okay.
cool. So the last one is, what do you think the long-term effects of COVID will be on
Jeez.
how the church gathers and worship and bears witness in the world?
Yeah, that's a great question because we've like had those discussions with our elders, man. I think you're going to see a different church, and those that do not want to move with the flow of the way God, I think, is moving us, because I think He's always wanted us to move in this position in this way. I think they're going to be left behind, honestly. And I think
Mhm.
you're already seeing unfortunately, a couple of institutions shut down because of a lack of progressive movement or innovative ways of doing things prophetically. Last year, there's a lot of places that aren't open. There's a lot of folks that have left their home churches, right? Because during the pandemic, they just were not they weren't functioning. They wasn't around. They weren't calling folks. And I think that's just that the new way of doing it is not waiting for folks to come in. I don't think we're going to have that luxury anymore, brother. I really don't. I think that during those 18 months of closure, of up in the air, wondering whether or not we're open tomorrow or not, I think it's caused folks to say, you know what, for years I have given to you, and now I'm seeing that you haven't given anything to me. And I
Mm,
think that's a sad indictment on the institution called the church. And I mean, I'm not just talking about in the Baptist church or the Christian. I'm talking about our Islamic culture, our Islamic centers. I'm talking about our cathedrals. I'm talking about all institutions of faith. I think we have had our people service us without us servicing them. You know,
mm,
you know what I'm
mm.
saying? all the conventions of us sowing seeds into these national conventions, these Baptist associations, these Church of God in Christ convention. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but for years we've been kind of giving money, right, to help them be sustainable and stay afloat. And during these 18 months, there were churches that did not have the ability to pay their bills. Was there anything given to them?
Wow, the money didn't come back
Never
down.
came back.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, Bryson, that kind of trickles down, right? I mean, we believe in tithes and offerings, right? I mean, you have our imams that believe in donations and giving, right? So the question then is, when people were without all that income that churches had or institutions had, was it reciprocated? Was it given to your parishioners who did not have? And I'm telling you, the streets are talking. Forever, the streets were watching. Ain't that what Jay said? Forever.
Yeah.
Now they're talking. They're tired. They're like, you're in my community, but during that time frame, was there food giveaways given? What, you know what I mean? Was there? Did you open up for distant learning? When folks were going back to school, and there was a lack of internet. There was a lack of the ability for certain communities who did not have fiber optics in their community.
That's right.
What did our religious institutions do in order to help those kids, actually log into school? Did we give out laptops? Did we give out Chromebooks? Did we allow our facilities or our parking lots at least to be used? And I think it has caused this new way of doing it, where now maybe what Christ said, maybe what my leader, Jesus, said actually makes sense. Go. Because if you don't go deeper and fish, they're not going to bite. Maybe we've maxed out catching all the fish that were in the shallow end. And our church looked full, but it really looked full because we had the same people coming in. Nobody was getting healed or nobody was getting better, Bryson, because there were healthy people coming in. So we had hospitals that were just full of doctors. It was just a country club. But sick folks would never come because they didn't feel welcome, because we never went out and got them, We never offered them the ability to have free health coverage because the price was already paid. We were expecting them to give in order to receive something. And that was never that was never what the church was meant to do at all, bro. And so the new way, I believe what we're going to see is action on churches. You have to work to get stuff done. And if you think about it, I'll say this, and I know I'm taking a lot of time, but this is very important to me. B, at St. Rest, we've seen like a turning of the guard a little bit. We're starting to see like the church is smelling like weed on Sunday mornings, and I love it. Not because I love it.
Yeah, don't you?
I was trying to sound bad. I was probably going to be the sound that Pastor Criner and Bryson talk about Sunday morning worship.
Pastor Criner loves weed on Sunday morning.
It's because like during the pandemic, maybe we touched the soul of a person that never felt like the church meant anything to them. And all we were telling them is Jesus gives you salvation. But yeah, he does, but he also removes all your strikes so that you can go and work. And maybe they now feel like they have a place where they can move and shake within the walls of the church so we can go outside. So I think that our churches have to be ready for a changing of the guard. You're going to start seeing activism within the church because the pandemic taught us that we have to move. We have to push people to get stuff done. We can't just sit back and wait for them to die and then inherit what they died and left. I don't think that's the reality anymore, brother.
That's right. We have a couple more minutes. I have one more question that kind of popped up to me as you were talking. I was just thinking about, I know in Fresno, and not even just in Fresno, in a lot of cities, and but Fresno is the city that I most care for. But even though I'm in Los Angeles, this has been happening here too. There's been an uptick in shootings during the pandemic, right? Different people, were able to do some EDD, PPP hustles and things like that, and that stuff is going is ending. So people are robbing more and things like that. Somebody got jacked on Fairfax and Melrose. Did a lot of like jackings over there here in Los Angeles. And Fresno, when the shootings were happening, how have you experienced that? And has the church held any of the funeral services from the shootings? Just what has been your experience with that in its current situation?
Yeah, but I'll promise you, I feel like I've done more funerals and maybe some of it was COVID related, but within the year, it's been more shooting funerals of kids, 25 and under, and they're the hardest ones to preach, to eulogize, because you're experiencing emotion, but at the same time, you're also being cautious of the fact that within the funeral, within all these people gathering together, there is possible exposure as well, and that's tough because you're seeing the emotion and the anger of folks, while at the same time you're trying to make sure you calm folks down and tell folks, hey, let's make sure you stay safe. Yeah, man, the sticks that these kids have nowadays is different. It's the emotion and the lack of caring of life is, or their own life. You got I'm gonna live fast, die young. That's like the model that's going around Fresno. And I think a lot of it does have to do with a national agenda, but that's a different story. That's just a totally different story that we can get into systemically, right? Because the question is how are all these sticks getting into our communities?
Right. Yeah.
I'm like Pac one time said, I don't know one black person that can fly a plane over, grab sticks, and come back. You can't even walk down the street with a machete, a knife.
For folks who are listening, a stick is an
Oh,
assault.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
See, it's your fault because I thought we were conversation, brother. AK 4D7. All right. Yeah. And we've had funerals at the church, and then of course our county gave us a personal request to kind of let it stay with our funeral homes, and so did our funerals. We work directly with coolies a whole lot, and they made that request also for the safety of their staff, when it comes to their safety, security, and all that stuff. Even though we have our own here, but the church kind of served as that place where a lot of folks wanted to have their funerals at St. Rest, their children at the funeral, because we were, I think, a little bit progressive when it comes to gang activity and shooting kind of out there. So we were at candlelight vigils. When a kid got shot, we kind of tried to show up first just because we wanted folks to know that we are there as a church. And we're not the only. Joby Jones is very active on the streets. Of course, BT Lewis is loud on the streets as well, audibly. So I think that plays a large role, brother, in it. But with all the shootings that are going on, I think a lot of it does have to do a little bit with mental wellness, with the lack of things to do, the lack of, and no matter what we want to say, kids are kids. Kids still need to have stuff to do, otherwise they'll get into some trouble. Right. And we can look down on kids as much as we want to, but all of us got in trouble. We just didn't have the access to what these kids have access to. Now, there was no social media. There was no making threats and talking about folks online. We would wait until we got in front of each other and we would throw down, And nowadays, kids ain't fighting. They're pulling out guns. They're shooting folks and then they're running away. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that when we were growing up, bro, we had clubs we would play basketball at. We had mentors within our communities. We even had pastors that we look up to. And unfortunately, nowadays, that's not the same. So the pandemic has taught that we have to be more active with our children, with our kids, with the kids on the street to make sure that they actually live until the pandemic is over with.
Yeah, no, that's right. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's
yes, sir.
Yeah, the mental health component of all of us has been just stretched to the limit. I mean, I was having anxiety around this pandemic, and I know it's probably much more difficult for a younger person who may be in a situation where they feel like there's less options and the pressures from the pandemic. They might be in a situation where they are in an atmosphere of violence, and so they might act out. And so you're right, it's a mental health, public health concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a criminalization sort of.
Well, just think, real quick, B, just think about it like this, bro. If me and you, who have homes, who have access to things to take our mind off of it within our own homes, we'll hop on the sticks and play Madden if we got the time to do it, right? Like, you got kids that are really in, domestically abused homes where they're tortured even in their own homes, bro, or they don't have a father figure. Some of the moms are not there as well because they're out working, and you're telling them to stay in. I mean, that messes up the mental well-being, where we have some of our white families, they're sending their kids to therapy, or they're bringing a therapist to the house to have conversations. We don't have, some of our African-American families predominantly don't have those same amenities to be able to call a therapist to talk to their kids about not being at school, not being around their friends, not being able to go out, not being able to hang out, not being able to play football, where your
Yeah.
season is canceled halfway through, and those scholarship offers you thought you had, you don't have no more. Let's just be honest. I don't think we think about that. And then we think we are so quick to rush to judgment on our kids, but we also suffer. I mean, I've yelled and screamed in my own home. I've punched a wall, you know what I mean? Because I couldn't do what I thought I needed to do, And if I'm doing that and I'm kind of well versed a little bit in mental wellness, I can only imagine what a kid who doesn't have an outlet is doing. Not to take away from what they're doing, not to say that what they're doing should be minimized, but I'm saying maybe instead of looking directly at the action, we look at the person and figure out a way how to help them to make sure that that doesn't continue.
Yeah, nah, that's some wise words for sure. Pastor Criner, we appreciate you. We're gonna have you back on for a conversation on another topic.
Yes, sir.
So for all you all that are listening, thank you for joining us. Pastor DJ Criner from the Saints Rest Baptist Church, advocate and clergy organizer in the city of Fresno. Much love and appreciation, and we'll see y'all next time.
Love you, bro.
Peace.